I don't. Okay, I have two friends and colleagues here. Brett Benson and Jim Katona are going to be helping with some audio and some breakout rooms. Um, so with that, I want to thank Boyson. I see Boyson made it. I know he was traveling. I think he's in Colorado. Thank you, Boyson, so much. It's happening because of Boyson, who works for the Mankind Project. And many of you, of course, are very familiar with the Mankind Project. That's certainly how I met many men on this screen. And one of the most special people here, I think, special in that, was our founder. So Bill Kalth is here. And Bill is living in Oregon at this point. I'm going to turn this over to Bill for a bit here to have him welcome us on behalf of the Mankind Project. And then when he's completed that, we'll move on with the program. So Bill, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Lee. This is marvelous. I'm glad to be co-hosting this with you. And like it or not, I guess I am one of the old timers here. Mankind Project is now in our 40th year. We're having a celebration coming up in September to mark that anniversary. And we've been doing splendidly. We now are pushing 100,000 men all around the world. We've opened up Africa and South America now, and we've been all over Europe for decades. And we're still, providing a truly beautiful experience for men. We include a lot of joy and healing and community, and those are the basic things humans want, and we're still doing it well. So this all started in '84, really, when the divine call came in to do something for men, and Robert Bly was certainly a major mentor, kind of an intellectual guide for everything we were doing. Oh, there's my book. Isn't that fun? That book's been around for 30 some years too. Uh, and once we figured out that what we were doing was an initiation, we connected with Robert Moore, and he was a guide for us for a while. And Sam Keen, my blessing to him is that he put out that extraordinary book called Fire in the Belly, which in some way there was something about Sam. He was you know, uh, he knew how to say stuff really well, and he was also kind of a mainstream guy. So suddenly his book put the men's movement kind of clearly in the mainstream. Like there's something happening here, something of significance. Sam says so. And though I knew the Roberts each pretty well, I think I only met Sam once, and I remember him because we called ourselves the New Warrior. He said, that word warrior should be stricken from the language. And I mean, I didn't concur, but man, I love the grandiosity of that guy. He was willing to take on, changing the entire damn language just to get rid of. He was an anti-war guy, obviously, as I was also. So anyway, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to, have MKP co-hosting this thing, and let's get on with it. I'm in.
All right. Okay, I put your book up, Bill Kalth, because, well, two reasons. I told you on the phone when we talked Sunday, one of my friends was helpful in getting that published in New York by Jared Keeling. He couldn't make it tonight,
Yeah.
but that book has been in a couple printings, and it really has become a manual, as it says, for men's support groups. So thank you very much for
Mm.
your being here tonight and for all that you've done. I also wanted to share this picture before we move on. Uh, Bill Kalth was on my weekend. So many people in the call,
Oh,
again, who've been through this Mankind
oh,
Project New
my.
Warrior training. You'll see Bill Kalth up here in the upper right-hand corner with the arrow.
And
This,
that's Ron Herring standing right next to me there. It would have been his 88th birthday earlier this month.
yes, he was. Yes, that's right. He was on that weekend, and Ron
Yeah.
Herring and Bill and Rich Tosi were the founders. So I was very blessed that this is me with the red star on my chest. I was there in that training. That Don Jones is one of our elders who passed away. So I thought you get a kick out of that
Wow.
picture, Bill, and thanks again for being here.
Yeah, my
So
pleasure.
the other, I think, special guests that we have tonight are Patricia DeYoung, which is who is a dear friend of mine and was Sam's wife for many, many years. She can speak to that in just a moment. Uh, Sam and Patricia lived in Sonoma, California, on a beautiful ranch up on Norbaum Road that I had the pleasure of being there quite often. And I see another dear friend, Jim Shells, here too, who was very dear and friend of Patricia and Sam's towards the end of Sam's life. And thanks, Jim, for being here. So if you want to speak also along with Patricia, then I'll turn it over to another dear friend. Bill Jersey's here from New Jersey. Bill Jersey lives in New Jersey, Lambertville. Um, he's he can tell you how old he is, but he doesn't look a day over 65. I don't know. He looks pretty good. Um, Patricia is a pastor, a retired pastor from the United Church of Christ in Berkeley. She's a senior pastor. And I'll turn this over to Patricia and she can share a bit. And then, Jim, if you want to share anything about Sam, since you were with him so much at the end, and then Bill Jersey can share. But Patricia, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Well, there we are. I'm not sure whether I'm on camera or not, but I'll speak from this place. That picture is a picture of Sam and me at the wedding of our grandson and granddaughter, and in Hawaii about 4 years ago. So it's lovely to see. I'm sitting in Sam's office at the farm and I'm looking out and I can see all the trees and the hills and the birds that Sam loved so much. I often say that the love of Sam's life is this farm. And for those of you who've been to the farm and know about the farm, you know that that's probably true. I've been with Sam for a quarter of a century, and I think some of my reflections, I want to talk about him beyond the men's movement. I think the men's movement was a part of him, and he used to say fire in the belly when it was being published, that he knew it was going to be a hit because people were taking the galleys off the printer as they came in. And he knew that he had hit something that was so timely and important and worthwhile. But you know, Sam wrote over 20 books and started out as a philosopher and did his doctoral degree in the philosophy of religion on Gabriel Marcel. And he started really, I think, as a philosopher. And it turned out he had a magical gift for writing and for speaking and for presenting profound ideas in an ordinary, graspable way. That's one of my favorite gifts of Sam is his ability to translate, I think, complex ideas into language and feeling that all of us can understand. Sam would call himself a philosopher and a trusting agnostic. As I reflect on his life from here, past his life, I really think he was a mystic. And his love and acceptance of the unknown and his willingness to move into the unknown, asking questions, probing his own conscience and spirit and emotions and intellect, I think was the gift of the mystic, someone who was fearless about what he wanted to learn and know about the world and himself and the way human beings are with each other and in the world, and certainly with whom we name as God. Our relationship was a very easy one, coming to him at the last part of his life, and certainly midlife for me. We enjoyed each other immensely. And I would say we never struggled. Our love for each other was always easy, at the core and the center of both of us. And it is what makes me miss him so terribly today. Sam loved birds, the water system on the farm, the trapeze, He loved conversations with people, especially if they were willing to go into philosophy and into the corners of unusual happenings and unusual aspects of our existence. There are two men on the phone that I think followed Sam into this area. David Hytha, you're here today, and also Jim Shaw. And I want to thank both of those men for their faithfulness and for their love for Sam at the end of his life. Yeah, I think he was a profound human being who lived his life to the fullest, and he sought to become an expert at anything he could attempt, even trapeze. So I think he was an extraordinary human being for his willingness to go to the ends of an idea, the ends of thought, and always to open himself, as he would say, to begin again. And I know that where he is right now, he's beginning all over again.
Okay, thank you, Patricia. Thank you for that lovely opening. I want to give Jim a chance to share, and then David, if you want to just share a couple of words, and then I'll turn it over to Bill Jersey, and then we can continue. I know you didn't maybe plan on that, David or Jim, but you're here, and you know this. If Sam was here, he would say, just talk, just go ahead." So go ahead, Jim. Do you want to share a couple moments?
Sam would have asked us to be the author of our own Zoom story.
Right.
Well, it was my honor to meet Sam through Patricia, who nurtured and blessed my marriage to my wife, Sarah, who baptized our two children in the waters of San Francisco Bay and Lake Michigan. And who, a few years after we first met her, had a new gleam in her eye. And it was a real delight to watch her love with Sam blossom. They'd known each other for many years before, but it was the perfect time in both their lives to come together. And I think because of that long friendship and because of some conversations we'd had, Patricia asked if I might be part of the caregiving team for Sam in his last months, which proved to be about his last 6 months. And so together with David and others here, I was fortunate to spend time at Sam's side. And it really was, for me, a journey of companionship. And I think that in saying that, I'm not unique among this gathering of nearly 40 people, that Sam has been a companion to us in so many ways that he might not have known, ways we might name only years afterwards in retrospect, but in ways that have brought you all together here again, me together with you in that journey. And I want you to know that Sam's passing was as peaceful and beautiful as one might ever wish for. And he was surrounded by family who sang to him every day. And he was surrounded also, I know, in spirit by the much larger community of men who have been moved by his work over the years. So I thank you for being here. I think the best thing I can do is to listen to how you met Sam and what he meant for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jim. It was a pleasure meeting you in February too at the showing of the movie about Ernest Becker. So David, would you like to say a few words, and then I'll turn it over to Bill Jersey.
I have lots of questions for Jersey. So, Sam and I became, well, Patricia's again the arranger here. Sam and I met each other 20 years ago, but we became writing buddies. We published together. We did about 15 years ago, and two things strike you. the first thing is, it was said of Sir Edmund Burke, you could meet the man in a tin shed in a pouring rain, and you would stop focusing on the rain and you would listen to what he said, because this is one of the most interesting people you'll ever meet. And Sam had that capture, and I think what I think the range from his important practical, one side of him was really head in the clouds, and the other side was in the grit of the water and the well. So, and in between, he could talk to anybody at any place. And what I think Patricia captured a little bit is the range, which is, not only was he very practical when it came to the men's movement, and gave people some really practical steps and how things go on. I spent my time with head in the clouds with him in philosophy, and I thought I'd beat him one day. You know, Sam wasn't too good on the day of the week in the last year, but you know, I don't think he was that good on the day of the week when he was 20. You know, but the most wonderful piece was, I had seen, of all things, you saw Kierkegaard on the front page of the art section of the New York Times, which is not a normal thing, even though most of America would consider the New York Times an egghead specialty. You know, nobody would ever expect that you'd see Kierkegaard. So I got the article, and I was meeting Sam that day, and a wonderful other caregiver was there also at the time, and she was there as a witness to this. So just as I'm about to pull out this article, Sam says, you know, this just reminds me of Kierkegaard. And it was like, bang, you know, it was as Patricia alluded to, there wasn't any such thing as little thoughts and big thoughts. They were all on a continuum. And my question for Bill Jersey to lead over to that is, Bill, did he ever meet Hannah Arendt? Because I will tell you, he quoted Hannah Arendt every time we met. Though we die, we are not born to die, but to begin again.
Yep. That's what I said, and that's what I believe, and that's what's true. And we can be beginning again. Oh, that's a great shot. Thank you. Who found that one? That's Jersey and Keene, the two buddies. But it didn't begin as buddies. What it began as a kind of curious, awkward beginning. Sam came out. He was living in San Francisco, and I moved there. And so I gave him a call, and I said, Sam, I think you and I ought to get together. And he said, yeah, fine. So I call him, and we meet at a little restaurant in San Mateo, I think it was. And he said, well, you got 10 minutes. I said, okay, I'll take the 10 minutes, and I'll tell you what, if you feel free to continue after 10 minutes, I want you to do that. And of course, he did that. But it was the funniest part for me was, Shirley, what was the funniest part for me? See, I have to ask my wife things, because I never remember anything.
No, he said, I'll give you 10 minutes. After that, you have to pay me.
Oh, that was
Exactly.
right. I'll give you 10 minutes free, but then after that, you have to pay me. And
Bill,
so
like it or not, he was a Pennsylvania Scot.
That was also when he
that was
was
a
just,
legitimate
you
thing.
know,
So I said, okay, the 10 minutes are up, so I guess I have to leave. And he said, no. He said, you can't leave now. We're just getting started. And it's true. It was only getting started, and after 10 minutes, and it lasted a long, long time. In fact, it lasts right now. See, I'm having a hard time talking about him because he meant so much to me. And, you know, and that's a sign of a real friend. Real friends don't die. They just go to a different place. So Sam is in a different place, but he's not lost. He's still with me and with you, Patricia, right? Yeah. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for giving me a chance to cry on camera. I don't do it very often.
Bill, I'm right now looking at your picture of him and of you in Sam's office, and you have a wonderful little tribute to him underneath. You said, to Sam, to the best brother I have.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
You
It's in the office right now.
It's true.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for your sharing. And you know, I was so honored to have been part of your story and Bill's and Sam's when Sam visited you last August. That was a great reunion for you too. I know that you haven't seen each other a lot since you moved to the East Coast. But for those of you who don't know Bill Jersey's background, I'm sure he won't mind me saying a little bit. He's a documentarian by trade, a film producer. He was very involved in the movie called The Blob. I don't know what year that was, but he was very well known in that circle of a filmmaker. He was nominated for an Academy Award in 1965. I think I have this right. Bill, help me. And then he decided to start painting. So Bill is a very accomplished artist here. He's got some. Every time I visited Sam Kean, every single room has a Bill Jersey painting in it. It's just amazing how many paintings Bill Jersey's produced. So thank you, Bill. Thank you, Shirley, for being here, and Patricia. Okay, so here's how we had this evening planned to kind of let everybody have a chance to share some stories about either having known Sam through his written work or having attended one of his workshops. And you know, it's funny. I want to mention something that Bill Kalf said earlier, that Sam Kean didn't really like the words. He said "New Warrior," and I kept trying to explain to Sam. Oh, by the way, these are some books that Sam wrote that Bill Jersey actually helped create films from these books, Faces of the Enemy and Learning to Fly. So those DVDs are available. These are just a little stack of Sam's books. There's a couple missing in here, but he was quite prolific. Many people know the big book in the middle, Fire in the Belly. When I first met Sam, it was that book that I first read, and then started to read every one of his books, probably more than 4 times each over the years. So, you know, he's quite a thinker, but he didn't like the phrase "new warrior." I kept trying to say to him, these are new warriors. These are peaceful warriors, like Dan Millman wrote about. But he, even in his New York Times obituary, somebody quoted him as saying, "I would be caught dead drumming." I don't know if that's true. I think Sam probably has drummed in his life. But anyway, the way that we thought we would do this evening is have a chance for all of you to share some stories with each other. And I wanted to share one story. Some of you may have read how I actually met Sam back in 1993 when my daughter was in her, she wasn't born yet, really. So I had an opportunity to see Sam. And I think the first time I had heard of Sam Kean was during the Bill Moyers interview on PBS. And I have a little snippet here. If you haven't ever seen this interview that was filmed in 1991, actually before Fire in the Belly really hit the newsstand or the bookstores, Sam often told this story about one of his great friends and mentors, Howard Thurman. And it was at this point in my life that when I heard these questions, I never forgot them. And they really became a pole star, a North Star in my life. So let me just play this short video of Sam talking to Bill Moyers. And he talks about these 2 questions that were very much forming of his life. And then we're going to turn it over to all of you in small groups. So just bear with me and hopefully this video will work.
I learned the truth. Howard Thurman told me this, and this is one of the most helpful things anybody ever told me. And Howard said to me, he said, "Sam," he says, "a man has to ask himself 2 questions. Where am I going? And who will go with me?" He says, "If you ever get those questions in the wrong order, you're in big trouble."
I mean, if you ask who's going with us before we know where we're going. That's why a lot of marriages don't work, isn't it?
That's also men's unconscious story.
Okay, so let's do this. So I think Brett or Jim, you're gonna put people in breakout rooms. Let me suggest the prompt, if you would, for all of you going into a breakout room. You'll be with two other people, and we're gonna set the clock for about 12 or 13 minutes that each of you can get an opportunity to share what you would like. Introduce yourselves, where you're from, and then if that relates to your story at all about those two questions, where you're going in life, whether it was about your job, your marriage, your community, your faith community, whatever it is, if you got those questions ever in the wrong order, does that resonate with you? And then when we come back, we'll open up the floor for anybody to share if they'd like about their small conversation or anything so far. So you should get a prompt soon to go into our breakout rooms. And then the clock should be set for about 13 minutes, and we'll see you on the other side.
So a bunch of people jumped out. If there's less than 3 in your room, I'll fix that in a moment. You'll have 13 minutes and a 30-second warning after your 13 minutes. And here we go.
Okay, hello, Ann Page.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Looks like people are filtering back into the room.
Yeah. I'll contact you, Lee. I'd love to hear some Sam stories that one, maybe you'll tell some now, but
I don't know.
I knew him before Faces of the Enemy came out, and he was a good friend.
Well, that'd be great to talk with you. I love talking about Sam. I love Sam Kean. I mean, I just, I said to my small group, I said it took me a long time to feel worthy of his friendship. It was
Yeah.
my wife. My wife said to me one day, she goes, Lee, he likes you. Relax. And then Sam said to me one day, he goes, you're just an easy keeper. You're a very low maintenance friend. And I like that because, but sometimes I felt like, God, like David was saying, was it David? I think, yeah, like he could speak to, I figured he had a direct line to, like, I don't know. I think Bill Jersey has a story where he spoke to Mikhail Gorbachev. Like he was in traveling some pretty high circles.
Right.
And then we'd walk down Narbonne Road and he'd talk to the farmers and people out in the valley as if he was just one of these regular, you know, country farmers. He was
Right.
magnificent. Okay, let's move on. All right,
Yeah.
so here's the next step. So hopefully you had a good talk with your friends, your new friends. So
Yeah.
we'll open up the floor, and I guess Brett or Jim will be able to spotlight you if you'd like to share, anything that struck you in your small group, or, if that two questions that Howard Thurman posed, where are you going and who will go with you if you have them in the right order. If anybody wants to speak to that, we're just going to hold the open floor here for 10 or 12, 15 minutes, and then we'll do another small breakout. So anyone just raise your hand with the little button down there, and somebody will pick you up and spotlight you, and the floor is all yours. All right, I see Dave Butler. Can someone spotlight Dave Butler? And Dave, you can take it away.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, tell us a little bit where you're from and go.
I'm originally from Rhode Island, the smallest state with the biggest heart, and spent many years in Manhattan being an actor and a director, and then found that my real calling was trying to help people with their own lives and where they were going. So most of my adult life, now 40 years after the theater, I've spent answering questions like, where are you going? The first thing I found was important is to ask the question, who am I? Because if you don't know that, it's hard to know where you're going. It's like what they call it, triangulation. You have to know where you are. You have to know where it is you want to go. And then you can figure out what you're going to do to get there. So for me, the first question is, who am I? And the second question is, what do I want? And then as Sam pointed out, I think that where am I going is important. But I think that's what I found to be the most interesting part of Sam's work and all of the storyteller type philosophers like M. Scott Peck and Robert Moore, Iron John. Everything seems to be a story.
Yeah.
So somehow it made sense to me, being in the theater, that the work that I would do would have to do with people's story. So I love my story. I love Bill's story. I love Sam's story. We all have such wonderful stories, and it's interesting to find out where they crisscross. I think, Lee, you and I have met when I've come to visit you guys down there with Bill's group.
Oh, in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good to hear you, David. Thanks for step up here, be first in the bigger room. I remember, I think I had heard of Joseph Campbell a little bit before Sam came too, but that's the one thing that Sam was so strong in saying, that he said your first book should be your own autobiography. He goes, there's nothing in the world that you will know more about than the one wild and precious life that you've been given.
Right.
He loved Mary Oliver. I love that quote of Mary Oliver's, but he said, that's what you need to focus on, is that your own story is the most powerful thing that you have.
And as you pointed out, it's the gateway to understanding somebody else.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
As you pointed out earlier, it's the gateway towards understanding somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thank you, Dave. Anyone else? Who's up next? Just raise your hand and take a few moments.
I'd like to call on Bill Guerin if you can find him.
You're calling on Bill Guerin? Okay. Do you accept Bill Guerin?
I accept the challenge. Thank you,
All
David.
right, there you are.
Always pushing me on stage with you. Right?
Where are you from,
Well,
Bill?
I'm from Bucks County, actually a stone's throw from Lee's place. We walk our dogs together quite often. And I do split my time between here and Arizona in these later years of my life. But so I met Sam through his book, Fire in the Belly, in the late 90s when I did the New Warrior Training Adventure and a few other books, Iron John and Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and I guess the Superior Man. And I think with Sam's book, just the title, Fire in the Belly, that it gave me permission to feel that drive inside, that aliveness. I'm from a family of 11 kids, one of 8 boys, and I didn't really understand what masculinity was other than sibling rivalry. And to get clear as to what is the new warrior was really formative for me. And coming out of my weekend in '99, talking about where are you going, mission was so important to me. And in that weekend, and it's stuck with me ever since through many turns of life, it was I co-create flourishing communities. It used to be in work when I was doing organizational development work. And now that I'm beyond that stage of my life, it's flourishing communities, period, full stop. And, the power of purpose, and then followed by, well, who else is here and who's on board? That has served me really, really well. So thank you, Dave, for the invitation to share.
Thank you, Bill. All right. Next person. We'll take a couple more. Let's get 2 more people and then we'll do our next step. All right, see Kurt. Kurt, go ahead. You saw your note in the chat window. Go ahead, Kurt.
All right, trying to unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm out in San Francisco, and I had the opportunity to take Sam's last workshop at Esalen a few years ago, and I met Lee there. Right now, I've been reading excerpts from the Passionate Life. I retired, semi-retired about 1.5 years ago, and after a couple of surgeries last year, I'm being inspired by Sam and trying to say goodbye to my adult chapter and move on to an outlaw chapter. And so I'm enjoying reading that book, and I'm enjoying trying to hold on to his advice and basically realize it. And so it's really nice to participate in this program today. I thank you, Lee, and I enjoyed my time with the other 2 participants a few minutes ago. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Good to see you again, Kurt.
Nice to see you.
I think we sat beside each other. Patricia was there, of course, with Michael Murphy. That was, I think, Sam's last real public event out in California.
Yeah.
So we were blessed to be there for sure.
We were.
All right. Let's see. It's about 20 after 8. So we have a little bit of time. Anyone else in this round? We're going to have another round after this. Anyone else want to share about the 2 questions, Crossroads, or, a Sam Keen story? Anyone? You're muted, Bill Jersey. If you're speaking, I see you talking. Do you want to say something, Bill? You're muted. There you go.
I think I've been preempted by something. Oh, no, there I am.
There you go.
No, I was just going to say, it's hard to talk about Sam Keen. It's like talking about the origin of the world. It's like the son of a bitch, he just knew so goddamn much. And what the great thing about it was, not only did he know a lot, but he had no discomfort, no disquieting to just share it as though it was nothing. As though, oh, well, sure, of course, I knew that. I knew. You want to talk about the origins of wisdom in the world today, sure, of man's wisdom. Where are we going and how are we going to get there? Oh shit, really? Those are pretty good questions. So, and that's the kind of thing, but he would just, he loved questioning himself and the
Yeah.
world. And that was a treat. That was a treat.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I don't want to say anything. Okay. Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? One more last shot here for this round. I'm going to call on somebody because I see him here and I know he wants to say something. I never known him not to speak. Derek Peterson. Come on, Derek. I see you there. You were one of the men that came to Sam's Ranch years ago with the little group. We did our own little homemade men's group there with Sam. Do you want to share anything about that? You're muted, Derek. Oh boy, can't hear you, Derek. We may have to move on. Oh, there. Say something. Yeah, I'm not sure. Are you? I'm not sure what's happening, but I don't hear you. All right, we'll try maybe next time, maybe next round. All right. Not sure.
I'm here though.
Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
I'm here.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
I just shared with my group, Rushy, I just shared with my group about the fact that I grew up with Robert Bly and how when I first met Sam, we both were keynoting that your conference in
Yes,
in Pennsylvania sometime in the 90s.
2002.
What year?
2002.
Oh, 2002. And how when he asked me if I ever read any of his books, because we were at that front table, and I said no, and he said, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I read about you." I said, "I got a full disclosure. I grew up with Robert Bly. He was a member of my church. He was 4 houses down. My brother was best friends with my younger brother. Blah blah blah." And so Sam and I really, it was fun to have such a brilliant mind. And remember, he was going through a tough time in a breakup, and he was so genuine and so present, and yeah, it's very something to be in somebody's presence who is so real all the time and didn't have any. Yeah. So yeah. Thanks, Rushy. I was just telling my group about that. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you, Derek. Okay, I want to make one more comment, then we'll move on. Speaking about Sam's ability to do so many things, to me, his last book that he wrote along with his son Gifford, many of you may have read the book Prodigal Father, Wayward Son. I think I was the first person that brought Sam and Gifford to Philadelphia to share their book. And it's a raw book. It's raw. I mean, they did not have a good relationship. It was very estranged. So if anybody's interested if you're not familiar with a lot of Sam's books or writings, that's one book that I think we brought Sam and Gifford here, and in the New Warrior community came, and a lot of men talked about how healing it was to hear about their attempt at reconciliation and their successes in some ways. So Sam was pretty damn vulnerable in many ways. So that was another gift, because for me, I never saw my father that open or that vulnerable, and seeing someone who I admired, model that was very, very important. Okay, so let's move on. There was one last thing I thought I would share for those of you who know about this story. Let me share my screen again real quick. And then this is about a 4-minute video of Sam talking to a friend named Warren Farrell. And one of my first books after Fire in the Belly, what I like to do when I love an author, I go back there as early as I can. I could barely understand Apology for Wonder. It was so heavy with philosophical references, and I just couldn't quite get that book. But then when I read Dancing to a God, this book here on the screen, I think Sam published it in the early 70s or 1969. I forget when it was. But in this book, Sam talks about a story that for him personified some of his own understanding of the sacred. And many of you may know the story about the peach seed monkey, but when I first heard it, not only was Sam very emotional telling it, I think it was up at Omega Institute when I first heard it. I thought I would just share for anyone who's never heard this story of him telling it himself to Warren Farrell, who's a friend of his, another men's author. So the interview was done about 2 years before Sam passed away in actually the very study that Patricia's sitting in right now in Sonoma. So let me just play this story about Sam and what happened between him and his father when his father was dying pretty early in his life. So, and then when this is over, then we'll do one more small group.
This is Warren Farrell, and my good friend Sam Keene and I are talking about the noumenal or the spiritual and making spiritual connections. And he was telling me about a story about his dad making his last connection with him. And I asked him if he would share the story. Sam, would you share a little bit about what you were saying about it, as sort of being the beginning of the source of the spiritual for you?
Well, this roots in the question, what's sacred for you? The death of God theology and era was one in which we threw out religious symbols, and we threw out a great deal of language about God and church and all that, and so many of us replaced all of that formal religion with a sense of the sacredness of our own lives and the sacredness of certain objects that came into our lives and testified to the sacredness of my life, that I had a theology that arose from my unique experience and wasn't replicable. So, for instance, now this is the center of my own spiritual awareness of the world. When I was about 10 years old, I came in the backyard and under the apple tree there sat my dad carved a peach seed monkey. He was good at that, like all Southern men were, you know. And I said to him, Dad, make me one of those.
Yeah.
And he said,
Oh, it's over.
someday, but this one is.
This is over in like 15 minutes.
Well, I went home, and this was probably May or maybe even June. And the peach seed monkey in my mind. And when Dad was near the end of his life, and he was reminiscing about things that he had failed in. And I said, but Dad, you never failed me. The only thing you didn't do was you never made me that peach seed monkey. And he said, and I went home, and along in November, here came a little package. And then the peach seed monkey, not perfect. One of the legs had been broken off and glued back home. He said, Sam, I didn't have time to do a perfect one. Well, I went home. I treasured that peach seed monkey. It was a living testimony to the sacredness of being and to the keeping of promises. it was in my life a sacramental object, ever as powerful as the symbols bread and the wine would be for a devout Christian. And that became for me the whole beginning of a new understanding of theology and of my paying attention to the objects that came into my world that spoke to me and spoke to me about the sacred.
Okay, I hope that you could hear that story. I just never forgot it. I just never forgot the people's reaction in the room at Omega when they first heard him share that. You can read more about that story in the book To a Dancing God, but what Sam speaks when he says that this was a living testament and a sacredness of promises, and it would mean as much as wine and bread might be to a devout Christian. That story it just always, was so remarkable when Sam talked about that. That was the idea of living a life of looking at everything that happens between, this way I interpret it, that's the way I interpret, between him and his father, or him and his world, or anything that these signs of the sacred are around all the time. So just one quick story of my own, and then we'll go to small groups. I had known Sam probably, I met him in 93. It probably took me 20 years to get up enough courage to ask him to see the peach seed monkey. So one
Lee,
day, what?
I have it right here. Do you want to see it?
Well, yeah, that'd be great.
It's in his holy treasure box. Let's see if I can get it. Oh, there it is. There's the peach seed monkey. He never let it go. He has it in his holy treasure box, his holy of holies. You have to go through 3 boxes to get to it. And if you look real carefully, you can see where that back leg was never completed. And his dad was 64 when his dad died, and Sam was 36. So this has been around a long time. And there it is.
Wow.
Well, I'll tell you, like I said, it took me a while to get up the courage, because I don't.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I asked him one day, we're out walking, and then we're walking back to the ranch house, and I said, I was afraid. I was thinking, what if it's not true? God forbid. Maybe it was just made up. Maybe it was a good story and I don't know. Anyway, to me, that story is so precious that his father mailed him the monkey, and he got the monkey after his dad passed away. And yeah, so Sam has so many stories like that, and I just thought I'd share that to me, because the story about Howard Thurman and the questions and stories go on and on and on. So we have one last chance here for, let's do 10 minutes. Let's do a different breakout room. Can you do that, Jim? Put us in, meet some new people before we end tonight. A breakout room of 3 people, and then 10 minutes about what that story may have meant to you, or anything that you'd like to share in your small group. And then we'll come back in 10 minutes.
Lee, this is Shirley here, and Bill. Lee, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Bill and I are going to sign off now.
Okay.
It's time for us to do that. And I want to thank you, Lee and Patricia, for putting this together.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure.
Grazie per tutti.
Yeah.
Love you, BJ. Bye, Shirley.
You too, Patricia.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bill. See you, Shirley. Thank you.
Bye.
If anyone else needs to leave, just, say goodbye if you'd like. Okay, you ready for a little breakout and say goodbye to a mate here? Hello, goodbye. All right, go ahead, Jim.
Yep. So where everybody's going to go for 10 minutes, a few people just dropped, so I'll be moving a few people around.
All right.
All right, here we go. You'll have a 30-second warning after the 10 minutes.
Hello, we're all back?
Rushy, you're muted.
Lee, yeah.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Anyway, I'll give you about 10 minutes left. Dick, I see your hand was up. Did you want to speak? Dick Schaefer? Or were you telling me I was muted? All right, I don't see Dick.
Here he comes.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just saying hi to Jim Katona because his face came up on the screen.
Go ahead, Dick. Take a couple of minutes, then we'll try to get a couple more people to share before we wrap up. Go ahead, Dick.
He said he was simply saying hello to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Misunderstood. All right.
I think Dave Henry might have had something to say though, and I'm guessing I might be wrong.
Well, I was encouraged to ask Lee about the Bhutan trip that you went on and your experience with Sam and the rest of the cohort in Bhutan.
Well, I'll give you the 30-second answer. And also, I just met Ann Page, who also went to Bhutan. I just learned tonight. So Sam would take these trips every so often with people that were at a crossroads with geographic expeditions. I was at a midlife crisis at 45. There were people there who had overcome cancer, divorcees, moving, retired, fired. And we just were in Bhutan for almost 3 weeks. And Sam would lead discussions every evening about what we were witnessing in the Bhutanese culture. The Buddhists have been there thousands of years and their way of life and how it reflected a very deep spiritual connection to the earth and to each other, and how, as you know, Westerners or Americans, how that landed on us. And I mean, I don't know. For me, that was the most pivotal spiritual experience I ever went on. I'm not a Buddhist, of course, but I've never been around happier people. And all I remember is when we took off out of Paro to come home, I started crying because I knew I probably would never go back. And I thought, man, that's what life is about. That's it. Those people got it down. And they certainly have their issues like all humans, but it was very powerful trip. So anyone else want to share tonight before we start to wrap up? All right, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to call on somebody here. Let's see. I'm going to call on Ann Page, who was in my small group. She also went to Bhutan. Ann, do you want to just share a little bit? Because you have such a fascinating connection to Sam.
Well, yeah. So I met him because I went down to Esalen, thinking it was a freaky place, and somebody invited me to do the sound for his film. And I met people that I had a lot in common with, and it turns out Michael Murphy and a bunch of other people introduced me to Sam. I was at some event, and Sam and I began a friendship where we, like a lot of you have heard, debated, discussed, and we moved from I was there when his house was, the main beam of his house was being set on Norbaum Road, and of course it was a metaphor for how our lives are all set. It's the main beam of your life and how the walls get strong and sturdy. And I saw it. He said, watch this. And they laid the beam down and everything got strong. And anyway, there were things like that happened for me with him that were such magical moments. And I did go to Bhutan with Robert Thurman and a group of people who were kind of asking what's next in life. And that was magical. And I worked on his Faces of the Enemy book because he knew I was a photographer. So I helped him with that. And just collaborating with him was a treat, a gift. It just was, I never grew tired or I found it great. And I went to when he decided that he wanted to try out trapeze, he asked me, come, let's go. It's in San Francisco. You got to come with me. We got to do this. And I said, Sam, I'm deathly afraid of heights. He goes, that's good. That's good. That'll be good for you. And that was, and then I went to Club Med, where there was circus arts with his wife and his daughter. And so I felt like I was mixed into his world in a wonderful way, and he in mine. So I feel very grateful.
Well,
Very
thank
grateful.
you. And this, I don't know if this is possible to be seen. I probably can't see it.
You pull it,
Anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, there is a video about Robert Thurman, who I guess is Uma's father. Robert Thurman was the first Buddhist monk, I guess, in America, ordained. Anyway, there's a film that Bill Jersey made about that trip to Bhutan. So you can go to samkeen.com. I'm going to turn it over to Patricia to have any final words here. But Sam has a website that's still up. His books and movies are there. If you have a lifetime of learning from Dr. Sam Keen. And the one thing I loved about him, he never used doctor. He don't need no, hey, when you're educated at Harvard and Princeton, you don't need no doctor in front of your name. Patricia, would you like to share a final thought here tonight? Thank you so much for being on, and I'll see you next week.
Sure. He only used doctor when he needed to.
Okay.
And there were times. There's our favorite novel, and it's a novella, and film is A River Runs Through It. And there's a moment in the film at the end when Norman is talking to his father about Paul, who has just died, and Norman says to his father, I love my brother, and what we can finally say about him is he was a good fisherman. And his father, who is a Presbyterian minister, and Sam grew up Presbyterian, says he was more than that. So all the things that we say about Sam, I know are true and are so lovely, and I believe every one of them. But what his father said about Paul, I'll say about Sam. More than that, he was beautiful.
Nice.
He certainly had some good looking genes in there.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
Inside out, up and down, intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, as my companion, my true companion, he was beautiful to the end.
And I don't remember how many years younger, but all the years you have left too, that you can continue bringing all that, to where you go. And I'm just very blessed to be your friend too. And I look forward to
and you, Lee.
Thank you. Well, it's time to wrap up. For anyone who's still on the call, thanks for being here. This was a real love.
Thank you, Lee.
Mine. Thank you for being here. We're going to have the recording. I'll send you the recording that you can share with your friends and family if you're interested. And you know how to hopefully reach each other. You have each other's. I'll send people's email if that's okay too. So stay connected and be safe out there, and see you down.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Lee.
For putting this
Thank you,
together.
Lee.
Thank you,
Thank
Don.
you.
A tribute.
Lee.
Thank you.
Lee.
Good
Thank
night.
you. And
Good
thank
night.
you to Patricia.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, Kurt.
Is Bill Bloom still on here? Did he take off?
He just took off.
Oh boy. I was hoping to say hello to Bill. I could call him. All right. See you, folks.
Good night. Good night.
You going to hang on for a second, Brett, Lee and Brett?
Yeah. Is Brett still here? Oh, there he is. Host.
Yeah. Thank you, Patricia.
I'm trying to get out, and for some reason,
too.
it's
Me
not
too.
letting me.
Me either.
So
I think it's just us here. I don't know who Peter is. Peter, can you hear it?
I can, but I can't get out. I'm like,
There we go.
yeah, he froze on the way out. That's all.
Well, thank you. Let's see. I think the recording, Brett, would be somehow on. I'm not sure where we would get the recording. You're muted.
I did it to the cloud, and I don't know I imagine, in my experience, Zoom will send a link to the recording in the cloud. But in this case, I'm thinking the link will go to Boyson, the actual owner of the Zoom room.
I believe you're correct.
Okay.
If you recorded it to the cloud, I'm pretty sure it goes to Boyson.
Okay.
Is that what Boyson asked you to do?
No, I just wasn't sure I'd have room on my own laptop to record it there.
Yeah, okay, no worries. I'm sure he can retrieve it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you need to, he'll let you know what you need to do.
Yeah. And Lee, assuming I can track it down, it takes a little process. I'll track it down tomorrow.
Thank you so much. I can't again thank you, gentlemen, enough. I got a little anxious there towards the end. Bryson was traveling and it all worked. It worked fine, didn't it? It worked out okay, right?
It was beautiful. What are you kidding me?
It was nice. What a gift we got by hearing his wife and Bill Jersey and, that David who's been with him and Jim who cared for him, was feeding him and bathing him to the very end. So, yeah, it was a real wonderful evening. And I'm so glad you both were part of it. And my wife is, wasn't able to be here tonight, but both her brothers were on the call, David, Dennis and Mark Riley. So that was very cool that they were here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna sign off. I've been on this for a while. Thank you. I'll talk to you, gentlemen. Take care.
Yeah. See you all later. Good night.
So Brett, you can send me an email once you learn about the link. All right. See you.